And if you don't advocate for yourself, no one else is going to advocate for you. So you have to take this so seriously because 15K per year, think about how much that compounds over time, whether that's in your 401k contributions or superannuation contributions, whether that's with school tuition, if you have children, like that 15K over a lifetime does make a substantial difference. And also, you might be able to get more than 15K.
Hannah Hotline, how can I redirect your call? Oh, hello. Hi, I have a really big problem at
Dear
work.
Hannah Hotline.
I don't really like my boss. I'm really attracted to the guy I work with, but
I just want to say no, but I say
it's
yes.
my self-esteem, you know? Maybe it's burnout. This is the operator putting you through now.
All right, today we have such a juicy listener question. I get questions like this a lot, which is you have found out that you are getting paid less than potentially your peers or what you're worth, and how to have a conversation about it. Now, this is actually two different issues here. One is advocating for yourself and having the competency and the skill set to actually have a proper salary negotiation. But then underneath, the second issue is really self-worth and self-esteem. And do you have the confidence to fight for what you're worth, to ask someone directly what you need? And that is a whole other thing that we're going to explore today. So as always, if you have a listener question or you want to write in, you can write into hello@hannahkissel.com if you want one of your Hannah Hotline questions submitted. So here we go. I'm going to read the listener question and then we're going to go into it. Dear Hannah, I'm a director in HR at a big, very fast company. Good for you. My role has expanded a lot and I'm supporting 9 executives, including the CFO. That's a lot of work. My performance ratings are excellent, but that's not the issue. Because of my access to data, I know that I'm about 15K below the medium for my level. In my year-end review, I raised this and asked for my salary to be reviewed given the expanded scope. My boss told me that she's done what she could and now isn't the right time to negotiate due to organizational changes, and that I'm close to average. I know I'm not, though. The truth is, I can advocate for other people all day long. I can build the business case, analyze the numbers, and make the argument. But when it comes to me, I start second guessing myself. I know that inside sits a bigger pattern. I'm the person who always gets it done. I've built a reputation for being dependable, and I think my company has come to expect that I'll just keep absorbing more without properly compensating me. Ooh, yikes. At the same time, I'm going through health issues and I'm having to think much more carefully about my energy and my future. So the question is, how do I negotiate this clearly and confidently after already getting a soft no? Sincerely, underpaid and over-delivering. All right, underpaid and over-delivering. Girl, I feel you. This is such a common issue. And like I said, we're going to separate this into two parts. So one is how do you actually reapproach the salary negotiation conversation? Because if you are paid below the median, and you know that you are because you have access to that data, which is amazing, then this is something that you actually do need to renegotiate again. And whether they say no or not, whether your boss says no, that's really not what it's about. Although, of course, it's about getting more money and being on par with your peers, but it's also about advocating for yourself and knowing that you feel empowered enough to make a decision, to ask for what you need, to fight for what's right. And that is going to reinforce that you should be making these decisions later on. Because I have a feeling that you are, and you said it in your email, likely the dependable person and the go-to person. And when you have a reputation for being super dependable and go-to and you always get things done and you do exceptional work, people can take advantage of that. So you want to really break this pattern of how people see you, and the salary negotiation is the first step to that. So here's how to do this. So step 1 is I would actually approach your boss in a different way, and I would create a business case. So given that you are a senior HR director, you know how to put a business case together. This is absolutely nothing new to you. So in the business case, there should be a few distinct things. So number 1 is opening and naming the number that you actually want. Now, you can either put this at the beginning or at the end, but I'm suggesting that you do almost a 1-page report and a 1-pager about why it is that you should be adequately compensated for what you're doing. So there are a few things to include in that. So 1, name the number that you want. what is it? I wouldn't just say the 15K at the median. You want to go high here. So you anchor high, not obscenely high, but you're going to be doing a lot of data and or a lot of research on this. So number one, what is that? And what is the number? Number two, really put the internal data that you have access to. So if you've got access saying that you're 15K below the median, put that in there and say, I'm 15K below the median. I know because I have access to it. Just state it plainly. This is not something that they can fight because this is actually factual. So the third is really looking at your scope. Has your scope expanded? I believe that you said in your email your scope has expanded. So detail the scope expansion that you are taking on an increased level. You do have 9 executives. This is exactly what that entails. Is that more or less work that people that are on par? And really start to get very factual here. Now, it's also important that you don't necessarily lean on emotions in this part. You don't need to say that you feel like you're not valued. You don't need to put those types of words in because that makes it almost in more of an emotional conversation rather than a factual conversation. This is quite simply a negotiation. And a negotiation doesn't need to involve getting heated about it. Now we're going to look at, has your scope expanded? So what does that mean? What are all of the details of the scope expansion? You say that you're supporting 9 executives. Okay. Do you know the salaries of other peers who are doing a similar type of role? Now, what you need to do is also benchmark both internally and externally. So look at the external data and name specifically the companies and the roles that are competitors of similar roles and have that be on par with what you are getting paid and what you're bringing up. So, for example, if you know that you're paid 50K less than a similar type of role at a competitor, put that point blank. And actually, you can bring in that job description if you want from LinkedIn or from whatever job board of whatever country you're in, but bring that into this conversation. Don't sit there and pretend like it's okay when it's actually not, given the market and given the talent landscape. Then what you want to do also is putting in any type of risk factors here. So, is there anyone on performance improvement plan on your team that you are potentially going to have to absorb their work? Are there any other risks of such as turnover on your team? Put that in and also put in what your contribution is. A lot of times with these roles, we don't really account for if there is turnover and people haven't been backfilled and you're the one that has to do temp coverage on certain projects, or you're the one that has to take on certain stakeholders. You want that all detailed out and what your contribution has also been so far. Then look at, are you investing anything else in yourself? Like, what initiatives are you taking in? Given that you're writing in and listening to this podcast, you're likely someone who invests in themselves. So, do you pay for coaching out of pocket? Do you pay for courses? And list those out. You can even list the investment that you've contributed, but you're building a case around why it is that you are extremely valuable to the organization. Then I would also state your tenure, your contributions, any performance reviews, anything that if you even have letters of recommendation or you've given performance ratings or you would have very senior stakeholders, put that in there. Again, you are creating a business case where you're showing why it is that you are such a value and such an asset to the organization. And I want to hear in the comments from you, if you have had a salary negotiation conversation before, how have you approached it? Have you approached it with data? Have you approached it in a more conversational tone? Put it in the comments and also say what's worked and what hasn't worked. I really want to hear from you guys and really get a sample of this type of audience. So then we're going to look at how to actually have this conversation. Now, I wouldn't do this in a one on one, and I would have a separate meeting just about salary negotiation. So, what this looks like is emailing your boss, let's say a week before, requesting a meeting and saying, I would like to have a meeting specifically to discuss my salary. Nothing is going to be a surprise to them. If you want, you can, if your boss is someone that's highly organized, that likes to look at things before, you know the personality, what you want to do is you want to send them this information before. So sending them 24 hours before, 48 hours before, so they have the one pager, they already have the business case. And that way there's no surprises in the meeting. It's not going to be anything that is, you're not going to spring anything on them. You guys both know why you're here. But sometimes when this goes wrong is when you're trying to jam this in the end of a one-on-one. You've got a million things to talk about. You've got projects on the go. Maybe there have been redundancies that have happened, whatever this is. And then you're trying to shoehorn a salary negotiation in the last 5 minutes when this is something that does need an appropriate amount of time. So setting that aside separately is going to show that you're really serious about this conversation. But what it's also going to do is that if you're someone who's likely to back out of these types of conversations, you're almost like foolproofing it from yourself where you can't back out because you sent the email. So if you need to have this conversation right now, I would send the email right when you hear this. And so you know that you are actually going to be accountable for this type of conversation. Also, what I have seen is that people can chicken out when they're actually in the one-on-one if it's not set beforehand. So they'll think, okay, maybe I don't want to have that conversation. Maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe I'm being too needy. No, you are not asking for too much. You are underpaid. And if you don't advocate for yourself, no one else is going to advocate for you. So you have to take this so seriously because 15K per year, think about how much that compounds over time, whether that's in your 401k contributions or superannuation contributions, whether that's with school tuition, if you have children, like that 15K over a lifetime does make a substantial difference. And also, you might be able to get more than 15K. So you don't want to sit here and be the one that doesn't advocate for you when you know that you're underpaid and you know that you deserve more. Which then brings me into, you know, looking at the mindset. So if you're the one who's constantly over delivering, giving to other people, then it's probably just an expectation that you will take a bigger scope but decreased pay. And you actually want to very proactively work on changing that mindset because a lot of this is people's perception and how people are responding to you. If they think that you're the type of person that will take on more scope with no pay, given it is a very competitive market right now, but you also start to control the perception and the narrative. And that's what you really want to focus on. So that is why this conversation, especially if you have high people pleasing tendencies, that's why this conversation is extremely important for you to do. And just remember, if you don't do this, no one's going to do it for you. No one's just going to magically give you more money. You have to be out there advocating for yourself because it sounds like you're also really fucking good. So don't forget that. Even like do a pump up before, like listen to music, like get in the zone and say, you know what? I am good. I am worthy. I do deserve this. And I'm advocating for myself because I really know that I am worth this amount of money. And when you come into that, the conversation's then going to be so much easier. But don't go in with no preparation. Definitely do not do that. Do the things that I listed. You want to go in prepared with both internal, external benchmarks. You want to have letters of reference there. You want to know your performance ratings. You want to know your contribution inside and out, the big projects that you've delivered. How can you make it as easy as possible for them to say yes to you? So that is it. Hope this was very helpful. I'd love to hear from you. If you do this, send me a letter back. If you want your email read on Hannah Hotline, hello@hannahkissel.com. I will see you guys in a few weeks. And I'm also going to include in the show notes or at the end of the column, if you're reading this in the Daily Telegraph, I'm going to include my career confidence course, which has a salary negotiation guide in it. So we'll give you this step by step. So many people found it so effective. I've had clients get up to 70K pay increases with it. It's really quite amazing. So definitely get that. It's absolutely free. And let me know how you like it. And I will see you guys next week.
Hannah Hotline. Email her and you'll be fine. When your brain goes bing, bang, bonka, bing, boom. Email Hannah Hotline. Email Hannah Hotline.
Hannah Hotline is sponsored by Dominic Jingles, where quirky, clever and corporate branding is reimagined. DM Dominic on Instagram at Dominic Jingles or email dominicenglish04@gmail.com.